Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about Alexander Hamilton's economic plan. Remember, he is the Secretary of Treasury. He's going to help George Washington with all the economy. And so he's going to come up with a plan to kind of fix our debt and also to gain more money in our country for an army or whatever we need fit. So, our big idea today is that Hamilton wanted to create a national bank. Basically, all that tax money that's being collected will go to a national bank. That national bank will use that to pay off debts, supply money for war, all that stuff. Thomas Jefferson does not believe in the national bank. He believes it's unconstitutional because basically it's not written in the Constitution, it's implied. Also, Thomas Jefferson believes that this will give too much power to the national government. He thinks that since the national bank is controlled by the president, that the president will have all the money and therefore he'll have all the power. So he's scared of tyranny. This split between Hamilton and Jefferson is going to create two political classes. Sorry, not political classes, political parties. And one group will be the Federalists, the other group will be the Democratic Republicans. And last but not least, Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton are going to come up with a compromise. That compromise is going to move Washington, D.C. from Philadelphia to Virginia, and we'll basically have the national bank. A quick review of today's lesson objective. You guys will be able to tell me verbatim what Hamilton's plan is, and also tell me why Jefferson is against it. Quick review of last week. Remember, we talked about George Washington. He's our first president of the United States. He sets all the traditions, such as a 4-year term. He only serves 8 years total, so 2-term president. And then also, he sets all the standards for all the presidents to follow. All the traditions that we do as presidents, he started them all. We also talked about how Washington told us not to make any foreign alliances, and then we have this battle between Britain and France, and he's trying to stay neutral. Unfortunately, Britain is practicing impressment. Here we have a picture of a merchant that is being tied up by a British soldier, and that British soldier is going to force that merchant to fight in the war against France. Remember, we make a treaty against Britain. It's called Jay's Treaty, and with that treaty, we agree not to go to war with them, and they leave us alone. Then we have a picture of a whiskey and a farmer, obviously alluding to Alexander Hamilton's plan of the whiskey tax, which is going to make the farmers upset. And they have a rebellion. The difference between this rebellion and Shays' rebellion is the fact that we are able to stop them because now we have an army. So, getting on with today's lesson, the first part we need to talk about is a nation in debt. Remember, we're in debt because we owe a lot of money to the American people and also France. We gave out bonds and we continue giving out bonds because we're saying that we're going to pay them back later. But we really haven't made any progress towards that because we've had no money to collect. We have no way of taxing until we have the U.S. Constitution. Now that we have this new government, Alexander Hamilton comes up with a plan to basically pay off all this debt. Alexander Hamilton wants to make the world trust us. And in order to do that, he's going to create a system where we are going to establish debt. We already have debt, we're going to make more debt. Why? Because he wants to establish credit. He is going to pay back all the money that has ever been owned by the American government. So he's going to pay off the debt to France, he's going to pay off the debt to the American people, all those bonds, and then he's also going to pay back the debt that the states own. The reason why he's going to do that is because he wants to gain trust. The American people are going to start trusting the government if we pay back those bonds. France will start trusting us again if we pay back their money they gave us to the war. If he does this right, people will continue to give us money because they know that we can pay it back later. That's the idea. So in order to do that, we need to establish new taxes. We're going to establish a tariff tax. It's going to be a tax on all goods not made in the United States that are coming in here. A reason why we're doing that, we're forcing the American people to buy American-made products because now they're going to be cheaper than European products. Another tax that we've talked about already is going to be the increased tax on whiskey. With that money, we're going to put all that money in the national bank. The national bank is going to be the system that we use to put all that federal money into one area, and also we're going to make sure that it pays off all the debt. So all the money, all that federal taxes is going to go to the national bank. And the job of the federal bank, or the national bank, is to collect and control the U.S. money. Very simple. So to break down Hamilton's plan, I just want to give you an example real quick. Here we have two couple. Let's just call one Steve and the other one Shirley. And Steve wants to buy Madden 13, but doesn't have the money yet to buy it. So he's going to borrow money from Shirley. Let's say $60. Says, Shirley, I need to borrow this money. I want to really buy this game. Shirley says, sure, but I need it back quick. I need the money back quick. And so Steve says, sure, no problem. I'll give it to you next week. And on top of that, I'll give you a few more dollars just for your cause. Next week comes by, and Steve pays back Shirley. Question is, in this scenario, can Shirley trust Steve? Well, of course she can. She knows that Steve's good for the money. She's going to pay it back, or he's going to pay it back. So she will continue to give him money as long as he does that. But here we have a different situation. You literally have a guy named Julian, and he's going to borrow money from Karen. Julian wants to go out there, and he wants to spend a lot of money. He wants to go to Vegas. He wants to roll big. Except Julian, like most people who go to Vegas, lost all his money. Julian doesn't have a job. He doesn't have means to pay back this money that he borrowed, and so tells Karen, I can't pay you back. Do you think Karen's ever going to trust him again? Probably not. He's shown in his history that he cannot be trusted paying back that money. That's Hamilton's plan. The idea is to establish good credit. Another word for credit is just trust. He wants to establish trust with the American people and foreign countries, because if we ever need to borrow money in times of war, at least they will trust us again. That's the idea. It's just to gain trust. So, with that, we're going to gain that trust with everyone else. They will trust us, they'll trust them, and we're good for our money. That's the idea. But there is opposition to Hamilton's plan. Not everyone's for it. TJ, a man who's very much scared of tyranny, does not believe that Hamilton's plan is constitutional. And then we have Madison. Madison is also against TJ's plan. Both these individuals have fought against tyranny. They're both very skeptical of this plan. One of the reasons why is this. The southern states and the northern states both have debt from the war. Except the southern states have already paid off their debt. And now Hamilton is Alexander Hamilton is saying that he's going to pay off everyone's debt. So the North, who hasn't even begun paying off their debt, is now off scot-free. And the South is not going to get their money back, and that's why they're upset, because they've worked hard paying off that debt as they've gone by. So that's why they're extremely upset about that. Another reason why they're against it is because they believe that since the National Bank is not written verbatim, it's not in the Constitution word for word, it should not be a concept that we go by. So they say it's unconstitutional. Another reason is that speculators are going to make a huge profit. Speculators have gone up to people who have bonds, and because the American government at the time was not paying back the bonds, they would buy them for half the price, or maybe even a quarter of a price. And then now the national government has said, hey, we're going to pay back those bonds. They're making huge profits. They're making unfair profits. And last, they believe that since all the money is going to go to one centralized area, the executive branch, that it'll be too much power for the national government and too much power for the wealthy. All right, the North likes the plan because the tariff is going to protect their business, their American businesses. The South does not like it because if you look at it, they've already paid off their debt previous to this plan, and they're not going to be compensated for the money they've given up already. So they really don't like the plan. So you need to know that North likes the plan, and the South does not like the plan. So the compromise for this deal, compromise is where we meet in the middle. What happens is this. Washington is going to make the national bank. That's going to make Hamilton happy. But then, in order to make Thomas Jefferson happy, he wants the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C., to be moved from Philadelphia, and he wants it moved near Virginia, his home state. So he's going to be happy, and Hamilton's going to be happy. That's the compromise.